The grand conclave of the Xylar Dominion hung in silent anticipation, the massive crystalline structures that formed their assembly chamber refracting the light of Xylo's prime into a dazzling yet unsettling display. For generations, the Xylar had governed a vast swath of the Andromeda galaxy, their power absolute, their decisions final. But now a disquiet had settled upon them, a shadow cast by the unexpected arrival of a species from a backwater system, a species they had deemed insignificant, humanity. Lord Zarthus, the Dominion's speaker, cleared his throat, the sound amplified and echoed throughout the chamber. His voice, usually resonating with authority, now carried a note of caution, a hint of unease. The ultimatum has been delivered. Earth has been ordered to relinquish its technological advancements, to submit to Xylar governance, to kneel before the Dominion's might. Their response, or lack thereof, is deeply troubling. He paused, allowing his words to sink into the minds of the assembled Xylar lords. The holographic projection in the center of the chamber flickered, displaying images of Earth, a vibrant blue sphere, teeming with life, a stark contrast to the sterile, crystalline world of the Xylar. Lady Lyra, a renowned strategist and a staunch advocate for decisive action, spoke next. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the silence like a shard of ice. Their silence is an act of defiance, a blatant disregard for our authority. We should deploy the Armada, crush their resistance, and bring them to heel. Their primitive technology poses no threat to our forces. Her crystalline eyes flashed with impatience. The longer we delay, the more time they have to prepare to potentially develop countermeasures. We must act swiftly and decisively. A murmur of agreement rippled through the conclave. The Xylar were not accustomed to disobedience, to resistance. Their power had been unchallenged for centuries, their word law. To be met with silence, with what they perceived as arrogance, was an affront to their very being. But Lord Thuron, a scholar and diplomat known for his measured approach, raised a dissenting voice. I urge caution, Lady Lyra. We do not fully understand humanity. Their culture, their motivations, their capabilities, they remain an enigma. To launch a full-scale assault without understanding our enemy would be a grave error. He adjusted his crystalline spectacles, his gaze thoughtful. Their technology may appear primitive on the surface, but there are anomalies, inconsistencies that suggest a deeper understanding of certain principles than we initially believed. And their silence, it could be a sign of weakness, but it could also be a sign of something else entirely. Perhaps they are calculating. The debate continued for what felt like an eternity, the Xylar lords arguing back and forth, their voices rising and falling in waves of impassioned rhetoric. Some favored immediate military action, eager to demonstrate the Dominion's power and crush any potential rebellion. Others urged restraint, advocating for a more cautious approach, for gathering more intelligence before committing to a course of action. The tension in the chamber grew, the air thick with uncertainty and apprehension. Zarthus watched, his expression inscrutable. He understood the concerns of both sides. To underestimate humanity could be a fatal mistake, but to show weakness, to hesitate, could embolden them and invite further defiance. He was caught between the desire to maintain the Dominion's authority and the need to protect its interests. Finally, Zarthus raised his hand, silencing the debate. Enough, he said, his voice resonating with authority. We will proceed with caution, but we will not allow humanity's defiance to go unanswered. We will send a diplomatic envoy to Earth, led by Lord Thuron. He will present our terms once more, and he will attempt to ascertain their true intentions. If they refuse to comply, if they continue to defy us, then we will unleash the Armada. He paused, his gaze sweeping across the faces of the assembled lords. But not the main fleet we will deploy. The Black Armada. A collective gasp swept through the conclave. The Black Armada. A legendary force shrouded in mystery and fear, composed of vessels salvaged from ancient battlefields, modified with experimental technologies, and crewed by the Dominion's most ruthless and unpredictable warriors. They were a weapon of last resort, reserved for the most desperate of situations. To deploy them against humanity, it was a statement. It was a declaration that the Dominion considered them a threat, a danger that needed to be neutralized at all costs. Thuron bowed his head, acknowledging the order. He felt a pang of unease. He had hoped for a peaceful resolution, but it seemed that the Dominion was determined to force the issue. He could only hope that he could find a way to avert a catastrophic conflict. As the assembly dissolved, Zarthus remained, staring at the image of Earth. He felt a deep sense of foreboding. Something about humanity troubled him, something he couldn't quite put his finger on. He had a feeling that this was just the beginning, that the Dominion was about to face a challenge unlike any it had ever encountered before. Light years away, orbiting a sun they called Sol, a small planet continued its quiet rotation, oblivious to the storm brewing in the Andromeda galaxy. On Earth, life went on. Cities hummed with activity, oceans churned with life, and forests rustled in the breeze. Humanity, in its ignorance, continued to pursue its dreams, its ambitions, its petty squabbles, unaware of the cosmic judgment that was about to befall it, unaware perhaps of the dormant strength that lay within. Thuron's vessel, a sleek silver cruiser named the Asterisk Aegis, pierced through the void, its sensors scanning the surrounding space. He stood on the bridge, gazing at the holographic projection of Earth, a swirling blue marble hanging in the darkness. He felt a growing sense of unease. The closer they got, the more he realized how little they truly knew about this species. Their transmissions were fragmented, their data inconsistent. They seemed to operate on principles that defied Xylar logic, their actions often unpredictable and irrational. He was beginning to suspect that the Dominion had made a grave miscalculation. They had underestimated humanity. Lord Thuron, his second-in-command, a young, ambitious Xylar named Captain Rixus, approached him. "We are approaching Earth's orbital defense network. They have not responded to our hails," Thuron sighed. He had hoped for a more welcoming reception, but it seemed that humanity was determined to play hard to get. "Maintain course," he ordered, "and prepare to transmit a formal greeting. Emphasize our peaceful intentions." Rixus nodded and returned to his station. The Aegis continued its approach, its shields raised, its weapons systems on standby. As they entered Earth's orbit, they were met by a silent, imposing presence. A network of orbital platforms armed with advanced weaponry floated in the void, their sensors locked onto the Aegis. Thuron felt a shiver run down his spine. Humanity was not as defenseless as they had thought. A voice crackled over the comm system. It was a human voice, calm, measured, and surprisingly devoid of emotion. "Unidentified vessel, you are approaching Earth airspace without authorization. Identify yourself and state your intentions." Thuron stepped forward, activating the comm system. "This is Lord Thuron, emissary of the Xylar Dominion. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic relations." There was a brief pause, followed by another, equally calm voice. "Xylar Dominion, you have been warned. Your ultimatum has been received. Earth does not negotiate with aggressors. Depart our airspace immediately, or we will be forced to take action." Thuron frowned. This was not going as planned. He had expected resistance, perhaps even hostility, but he had not anticipated such a firm, unwavering stance. "I must insist," Thuron replied, his voice firm but polite. "We have no intention of aggression. We merely wish to discuss the terms of our agreement." "There is no agreement," the human voice replied. "Only a demand for surrender. Earth does not surrender. Depart our airspace immediately." The line went dead. Thuron stared at the comm panel in disbelief. Humanity was defying them, rejecting their authority, refusing to even engage in dialogue. He had never encountered such intransigence before. "Captain Rixus," he said, his voice tight with anger and frustration. "Prepare to transmit a message to the Dominion. Inform them that negotiations have failed. Humanity refuses to comply." Rixus nodded, his expression grim. He had expected this. He had never believed that diplomacy would work with such a primitive, stubborn species. Back on Xylo's Prime, Xarthus received Thuron's message with a mixture of anger and disappointment. He had hoped that diplomacy would prevail, but it seemed that humanity was determined to force a confrontation. He paced the floor of his chambers, his mind racing. He had a decision to make. He could order the Black Armada to attack Earth, unleashing a devastating assault that would crush their resistance and bring them to heel. But he knew that such an action would have far-reaching consequences. It would alienate other species, damage the Dominion's reputation, and potentially spark a wider conflict. Or he could attempt a different approach, a more subtle, less destructive strategy. But what? Humanity had proven to be unpredictable, irrational, and utterly unyielding. He was running out of options. Suddenly, a message flashed across his comm screen. It was from the Black Armada. "Lord Xarthus," the message read, "we have detected unusual energy signatures emanating from Earth. They appear to be defensive in nature. We advise caution." Xarthus frowned. Defensive? What kind of defenses could humanity possibly possess that would warrant caution from the Black Armada? He had authorized them to observe the situation from a distance, to gather intelligence, but he had not expected them to encounter any significant resistance. "Elaborate," he ordered. "What kind of energy signatures are you detecting?" The reply was hesitant, uncertain. "We are not entirely sure, Lord Xarthus. They are unlike anything we have encountered before. They seem to be resonating with some kind of underlying field, a field that permeates the entire planet. It is as if Earth itself is alive." Xarthus felt a chill run down his spine. Alive? What did that even mean? He had heard rumors of ancient civilizations that had mastered the art of manipulating planetary energies, but he had dismissed them as myths, as legends. Could humanity have stumbled upon such a technology? Could they be capable of wielding such power? He didn't know, but he knew that he had to find out. Maintain your position, he ordered the Black Armada. Observe and report, but do not engage. I repeat, do not engage. Meanwhile, on Earth, the leaders of the world had gathered in a secret underground bunker hidden deep beneath the surface. They were tense, anxious, but determined. They had known that this day would come. They had prepared for it. For decades, they had secretly diverted resources, channeled their brightest minds, and toiled in the shadows, developing a defense against the inevitable alien invasion. They had kept their work hidden from the public, fearing panic and chaos. They had known that the Xylar Dominion would underestimate them, would dismiss them as primitive and insignificant. They had used that to their advantage, lulling them into a false sense of security. Now, the time had come to reveal their true power. "The Xylar are at our doorstep," said President Elena Rodriguez, her voice firm and resolute. "They have issued their ultimatum and we have rejected it. They expect us to surrender, to kneel before their might, but we will not. We will not yield. We will not break. We will defend our planet, our freedom, our way of life. We will show them what it means to be human." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. The leaders of the world, despite their differences, were united in their resolve. They would stand together, shoulder to shoulder, against the alien threat. "The planetary defense grid is fully operational," reported General Marcus Chen, the commander of Earth's military forces. "All systems are online and our weapons are locked onto the Xylar vessels. We are ready to engage." Rodriguez nodded. "Then let us begin," she said. "Let us show them the true power of Earth." The order was given and the planetary defense grid sprang to life. Hidden beneath the oceans, buried deep within the mountains, and concealed in the shadows of the cities, massive energy conduits began to channel the planet's natural energies, focusing them into powerful beams of pure force. The energy signatures detected by the Black Armada intensified, growing stronger, more coherent, more alive. The Aegis, still orbiting Earth, was suddenly bathed in a blinding light. Thuron shielded his eyes, his mind reeling. What was happening? What had humanity unleashed? The sensors on the Aegis went haywire, flickering erratically, unable to process the overwhelming energy signatures. "Report!" Thuron shouted, his voice barely audible above the cacophony of alarms. "What is going on? We are under attack," Rixus cried, his voice filled with panic. "Energy weapons, they are targeting our shields." The Aegis shuddered violently as it was struck by a series of powerful energy beams. The shields held, but they were weakening, draining rapidly. Thuron watched in horror as the holographic projection of Earth shimmered and pulsed with an unearthly glow. He had never seen anything like it. Humanity was not just defending itself, it was actively attacking. The Black Armada, lurking in the shadows of space, watched in stunned silence. They had never witnessed such a display of power. The energy weapons unleashed by Earth were unlike anything they had ever encountered. They were not based on conventional physics, on known technologies. They seemed to tap into some kind of primal force, a force that resonated with the very fabric of the planet. The Armada's commander, a grizzled veteran named Captain Vorlag, stared at the unfolding scene, his crystalline eyes wide with disbelief. He had fought in countless battles, witnessed unimaginable horrors, but he had never seen anything that compared to this. Humanity was not the primitive, insignificant species they had thought. They were something else entirely. Vorlag hesitated. He had been ordered not to engage, to observe and report. But he knew that if he did nothing, the Aegis would be destroyed. He couldn't let that happen. He had a duty to protect his fellow Xylar, even if it meant disobeying orders. "Prepare to engage," he ordered his crew. "Full power to weapons, we will provide cover for the Aegis." The Black Armada surged forward, its massive vessels bristling with weapons. They unleashed a torrent of fire upon Earth, hoping to disrupt the planet's defenses and buy the asterisk Aegis some time. But Earth's defenses were too strong. The energy weapons continued to fire, cutting through the Armada's shields like butter. Vorlag realized that they were outmatched. Humanity had anticipated their arrival, had prepared for their attack. They were not going to win this battle. He had to find a way to escape, to warn the Dominion of the true danger that humanity posed. Evasive maneuvers. He ordered, "Prepare for a jump to hyperspace. We are getting out of here." The Black Armada turned and fled, desperately trying to evade Earth's relentless barrage. But it was too late. One of the energy beams struck Vorlag's flagship, the Nightfall Asterisk, crippling its engines and disabling its shields. The Nightfall began to spin out of control, its hull breached, its crew dying. Vorlag knew that he was doomed. He had failed. He had underestimated humanity. As the Nightfall plunged towards Earth, Vorlag activated his comm system, sending a final message to the Dominion. "Lord Zarthus," he said, his voice weak and fading. "Humanity is not what you think. They are more powerful than we imagined. They have awakened something within the planet. They are the guardians of Earth. Beware, the Black Armada has fallen." The transmission ended, and the Nightfall crashed into Earth's atmosphere, burning up in a fiery inferno. On Xylo's prime, Xarthus received Vorlag's message with a profound sense of dread. The Black Armada had fallen. Humanity had defeated them. They had not only defended their planet, they had destroyed one of the Dominion's most powerful forces. He realized that he had made a terrible mistake. He had underestimated humanity. He had dismissed them as primitive and insignificant. He had failed to recognize their true potential. He had unleashed a force that he could not control. He sank into his throne, his crystalline face etched with despair. The Dominion was facing its greatest challenge yet. He had no idea what to do. Then a new message appeared on his comm screen. It was from Earth. Xylar Dominion, the message read, "We have defeated your forces. We have demonstrated our power, but we do not seek conquest. We do not desire war. We seek only peace. We invite you to send an emissary to Earth to discuss the terms of a peaceful coexistence. We believe that we can learn from each other, that we can build a better future together, but we will not tolerate aggression. We will defend ourselves against any threat. The choice is yours." Xarthus stared at the message, his mind racing. Humanity was offering peace. After defeating the Black Armada, after demonstrating their overwhelming power, they were offering peace. It was an unexpected, almost unbelievable turn of events. He thought of the countless lives that had been lost, the potential for further destruction, the damage that had already been done. He knew that he had to make a choice that would determine the fate of the Dominion, the fate of humanity, and perhaps the fate of the galaxy. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and made his decision. "Send a reply," he ordered. "Tell them that we accept their offer. We will send an emissary to Earth to discuss the terms of a peaceful coexistence." He paused, his voice trembling slightly. "And tell them that we are sorry." A few weeks later, a Xylar delegation led by Lord Thuron arrived on Earth. They were greeted with courtesy and respect, but also with a firm and unwavering resolve. The humans made it clear that they would not tolerate any further aggression, any attempt to subjugate them. They insisted on complete equality, on mutual respect, and on a commitment to peaceful cooperation. Thuron was impressed by the humans' intelligence, their resourcefulness, and their unwavering commitment to their ideals. He realized that they were not just defending their planet. They were defending their values, their principles, their very humanity. After several weeks of intense negotiations, an agreement was reached. The Xylar Dominion recognized Earth as a sovereign planet, with the right to govern itself as it saw fit. In return, Earth agreed to share its knowledge and technology with the Dominion, and to work together to address common challenges, such as climate change, disease, and poverty. It was a historic moment, a turning point in the history of the galaxy. Two vastly different species, after a period of conflict and misunderstanding, had found a way to coexist peacefully. But the story doesn't end there. As the Xylar and humans began to cooperate, to learn from each other, they discovered something extraordinary, something that would change their understanding of the universe forever. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, hidden for millions of years, lay an ancient artifact, a device of unimaginable power. It was a beacon, a signal transmitter sending a message out into the vastness of space. The message was not intended for the Xylar or for humanity. It was intended for something else entirely. The signal was a warning, a desperate plea for help, sent by a long-lost civilization that had faced a threat beyond comprehension, a cosmic horror that had consumed entire galaxies. The civilization had built the beacon as a last resort, hoping to alert other species to the impending danger. But the beacon had remained dormant for millions of years, its message unheard, its warning unheeded. Until now. Now that the Xylar and humans had come together, now that they had achieved a level of understanding and cooperation, the beacon had been activated, its message finally reaching its intended recipients. The message spoke of a force that devoured stars, that twisted reality, that corrupted everything it touched. It spoke of a being of unimaginable power, a being that existed outside of space and time, a being that was slowly but surely consuming the universe. The humans and Xylar were terrified. They had faced many challenges before, but they had never encountered anything like this. They realized that their conflict, their petty squabbles, were insignificant in the face of this cosmic threat. They knew that they had to work together, to pool their resources, to combine their knowledge if they were to have any chance of survival. And so, the Xylar and humans formed an alliance, a united front against the impending darkness. They reached out to other species, warning them of the danger, inviting them to join their cause. Some species refused, dismissing the warning as a hoax or a delusion. Others hesitated, unwilling to commit to a fight against such a formidable foe. But many species answered the call, recognizing the gravity of the situation, understanding that their very existence was at stake. A vast coalition of species, united by a common purpose, began to prepare for war. They knew that they were facing impossible odds, that their chances of success were slim, but they refused to give up. They would fight to the end for the survival of their civilizations, for the preservation of the universe. As the cosmic horror drew closer, the humans and Xyler looked to each other, their eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. They knew that the battle ahead would be long and arduous, that many would perish. But they also knew that they were not alone. They had each other. They had their allies. And they had something that the cosmic horror could never understand: hope. They had the hope that they could somehow, against all odds, find a way to defeat the darkness, to save the universe, to prove that even the smallest, most insignificant species could make a difference. They ordered Earth to kneel. Humanity called in the Black Armada. But the Armada was only the beginning. The true strength of humanity lay not in its weapons, but in its spirit, in its resilience, in its unwavering belief in the power of hope. And that hope, that spirit, would be their greatest weapon in the fight against the cosmic horror. The future of the universe rested on their shoulders. The Black Armada, meant to destroy them, had inadvertently awakened them to a threat far greater than either civilization had ever imagined, forging a crucible in which humanity's greatest strength would be revealed.